Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Ella and welcome to my channel. I post missing people cases, murder cases, just creepy things. So if you like that stuff, please subscribe and like this video and turn on post notifications so you can see every time I post a video like this. And yeah, so as you can tell by the title, today we're going to be talking about Caylee Anthony. This is a crazy case. There's so much in this case, and this video is not going to cover everything, especially with the trial. If you really want to see the trial, I'm pretty sure there's like videos of it up on YouTube. This is a really emotional case. People get really emotional about the way this case ended and everything that happened throughout, so let me know what you think after watching this video in the comments. So let's get into the case. So Caylee Anthony was born on August 9th, 2005 in Florida to her mother Caylee Anthony, and her father is unknown. So Casey had Caylee when she was only 19 years old, and she lived with her parents Cindy Anthony and George Anthony. Casey had a lifestyle that was pretty crazy. She liked to party a lot. She really just was living that teenage life. So when she got pregnant at 19, she considered adoption, but her mom really wanted her to keep the baby, and she said, we can all raise it together, we can live together, we'll just be a big happy family. And Casey decided to keep the baby. So in June of 2008, Casey and her parents started to argue a lot on her parenting abilities. Her parents thought she wasn't around enough, she wasn't putting Caylee as her first priority. She still really liked to party and live that old lifestyle that she used to live, but when you become a parent you can't really do that anymore, and Casey just really didn't seem to understand that, or just didn't want to, and her parents called her out on that. And Casey also had a really big history of lying. She would just lie about things to put them off when people would ask her about them so that she could just forget about it, and her parents knew that she had this tendency, so especially in this argument, they really didn't believe a lot of the things she said. So because of this fight, on June 16th, 2008, Casey left the home that they all lived in with Caylee, who was 3 years old at the time. She did not return for 31 days. So throughout these 31 days, Cindy asked Casey to see Caylee a lot of times because they all lived together. They were really used to seeing her every day, so all this time apart was really strange for them. And every time Cindy would ask Casey if she could see Caylee, Casey always had some kind of excuse that she was either too busy with work or that Caylee was with the nanny. The whole nanny thing is kind of a whole nother story in its own. Casey claimed that they had a nanny named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. None of the family had ever actually met this nanny. She was someone who only Casey and Caylee knew, or that's what Casey claimed. So everyone was kind of a little suspicious of this nanny, but we'll get more into the nanny a little later. So on July 13th, 2008, George and Cindy got a letter to their house saying that Casey's car had been towed and it was in a tow yard. Someone needed to come pick it up. So George went to the tow yard to get Casey's car because she wasn't going to do it herself, and when he got there, he said there was a strong smell of something coming from the trunk, and he later said it was almost like a decomposing body. This was concerning to them because they hadn't seen Caylee in weeks, and Casey always had an excuse for why they couldn't see Caylee, so they were obviously a little concerned by this. So Cindy called Casey and said, look, like, we need the story, we need to know where Caylee is. And Casey said that she wasn't with her. Casey was with her boyfriend, and she said that Caylee was with the nanny at the time. So Cindy said, okay, let's go get Caylee from the nanny, let's get in the car, let's go get her. So Casey got in the car, she started driving, and she kind of was taking all these turns. Kind of seemed like she didn't know where she was going, and eventually she just had to stop and say, Caylee's not with the nanny. And at this point, she told her mother Cindy that Caylee had been missing for 31 days and she hadn't seen her since then. So she hadn't told anyone that she was missing. She was basically telling everyone that Caylee was with the nanny this whole time, which was a complete lie. So that same day, when Cindy found out she was missing, they reported it to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and Cindy told them, her exact words were, there's something wrong, I found my daughter's car today and it smells like there's been a dead body in the car. Which she later went on to say was just an expression, but this obviously brought up a lot of concerns considering Caylee had been missing for 31 days and Casey's car smelled like a dead body. Now the police knew that Caylee was missing, this was all out there, but Casey's story still was that Caylee had been taken by the nanny. But no one else in the family had ever seen or met or talked to this nanny, so It was concerning to George and Cindy because some random woman they never met supposedly had their granddaughter. But when Caylee's case started really being looked into by the police, they found lots of inconsistencies in Casey's story. So the first really big thing that stood out to the police was that Casey had said Caylee was with this nanny, or that she was taken by the nanny. And when they actually looked into the nanny, the woman existed, but she wasn't a nanny and she didn't know Casey or Caylee. So Casey made this whole story up. She found a random woman and said that was their nanny, and that's why no one in the family had ever met her or anything. And so the police wasted all this time basically looking for this woman who wasn't even associated with Caylee or Casey. Casey also told the police that she had a job at Universal Studios, which is something that she told her parents for years. And when the police took her to Universal Studios, they asked her to take them to her office. So she wandered around for a little bit, and then eventually she stopped and said, "I don't work here, I was fired years ago." So she would basically come up with these lies and take these lies as far as she could until she literally couldn't lie anymore because she didn't have an office at Universal Studios and she couldn't talk to this random woman who wasn't the nanny. On July 16th, 2008, Caylee Anthony was arrested for child neglect, giving false statements to law enforcement, and obstruction of a criminal investigation. So the child neglect came from not reporting her daughter's disappearance for 31 days, and then obviously the false statements came from the nanny lie and the lie about having a job. Now the other weird thing about when Caylee was missing is that Casey was not acting like a normal mother would have when their child was missing. She was out partying with her friends. She actually got a tattoo. She wasn't really looking for Caylee, and it didn't really seem like she cared very much, especially since she didn't report it for 31 days until she literally had to because she couldn't take her mom to see Caylee. She claims though that during this time she was doing her own searches for Caylee. On July 17th, 2008, the police did a search with dogs of Casey's car, and they did find the scent of a decomposing body. On August 27th, 2008, her car was tested. Again, there were signs of a decomposing body in her car. So now we're moving on all the way to December 11th, 2008. This is months after Caylee went missing. So on December 11th, 2008, a meter reader named Roy Kronk called the police because he was out doing his job and he saw a suspicious black plastic bag. He actually went to check it out because he thought it was suspicious, and he found a human skull in it, and there was a piece of duct tape attached to the mouth. On December 19th, it was confirmed that these were Caylee Anthony's remains. Her death was ruled a homicide, and the cause of death was unknown because it had been 6 months. She had just been sitting here decomposing outside in Florida, so there was all this water damage, all kinds of stuff. So it was almost impossible to tell how she had died. So the next thing that happened isn't really important now, but it will be really important later. So shortly after Caylee's remains were found, George Anthony, her grandpa, actually attempted suicide, and he said that he just wanted to be with Caylee. And this isn't really important now, but in a theory a little later in the video, this will come back. So the trial began on May 24th, 2011. Caylee Anthony was being charged with intentional murder. She was actually facing some death penalty charges. She pled not guilty in court though. So prosecutors in trial brought up the fact that there was some search history from the Anthony house that they all lived in that said things like neck breaking, how to make chloroform. Cindy claimed that she was the one who searched these things and that it wasn't Casey. Now, this could be her trying to protect her daughter, this could be true. It was actually proved that she was most likely at work when these searches were made, so that really only left room for it to be Casey. So the theory became that Casey wanted to go out and party and she couldn't because she had Caylee. Obviously she needed to be a parent, so she used chloroform on Caylee to make her fall asleep and then put duct tape over her mouth and nose, which would explain the duct tape on the skull, and then ultimately Caylee suffocated and died. So that's what the prosecutor's story was, but then Casey's lawyer brought up a completely different story. So Casey's lawyer and her side claimed that George, her father, had been sexually assaulting her since she was a child, and that explains her lying. And they basically claimed it was all PTSD from sexual abuse as a child. And they claimed that Caylee died by drowning in the pool at the Anthony house and that George covered it up, and that is why Casey didn't report it. This brings us back to him attempting suicide. People thought that because of the sexual abuse he could actually be the father of Caylee, and he attempted to kill himself because now she was dead, and through DNA testing they could figure out that he was the father. So this is what Casey's lawyer and her team said in court. So this could be true. This would put a lot of the pieces together and explain a lot of the things that Caylee did, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this was completely a lie because of her lying history. She lied about so many things that I think she would completely make this up as well. And then George denied all sexual assault allegations against Caylee. There's also video clips of Caylee in prison talking to her parents, saying how lucky she is to have them in her life and how lucky Caylee is to have them as grandparents, which doesn't really make sense if she was sexually abused from the time she was a child, because why would she want George in Caylee's life if he had been hurting her all this time, and she probably wouldn't want the same for her daughter. So it was just a little weird that all of this stuff from the past just seemed okay and that she really appreciated her parents and needed her parents, but then in court all of a sudden when she needed a way out of being accused of murder, she would throw them under the bus and use that excuse. And then they claimed that the smell coming from Caylee's car was just garbage that she hadn't gotten rid of. Now this is the part where people get really angry. So the verdict of the case is so surprising. Everyone thought Caylee Anthony murdered Caylee. There was just no other explanation. On July 5th, 2011, Caylee Anthony was found not guilty of first-degree murder, aggravated manslaughter of a child, and aggravated child abuse. She was found guilty on 4 charges of providing false information to law enforcement. Everyone was completely shocked when the verdict came out because everyone was so convinced that Caylee had killed Caylee. There wasn't really another explanation unless you believed Caylee's story, which most people didn't because she was a liar in the past, and it didn't really make sense. So Caylee had already served multiple years of jail for the child neglect and false law enforcement charges, so this counted as part of her sentence. So on July 17th, 2011, she was released from prison. She became known as one of the most hated women in America because so many people thought she killed her 3-year-old daughter just to go out and party and to not have these parental responsibilities, and everyone just thought she's getting away with it. So many people hated her that when she was released, she actually had to be escorted out by guards who were armed and put into a car, and I think there was even a car change so that people couldn't follow her. And she lives a pretty sad life today. She pretty much has to stay hidden in her house because people will attack her and kill her because they think she killed Caylee. To this day, Caylee still claims she has no idea what happened to Caylee. I don't know if she still goes with the drowning in the pool story because that was never really her story in the first place. That was always just her lawyers. But that's where I still think she did it, because why was her first story that the nanny had her when her story in court was that she drowned in the pool? So even Cindy and George faced a lot of judgment because people thought they were in on it. They thought they were defending her daughter, which maybe they were. A lot of people think that George and Cindy believe her, that she didn't do it just because she is their daughter and, you know, parents want to believe their kids. They never really went against her in court either, even though she really threw them under the bus with these sexual assault allegations and things. They were always there for her and they always stood by her side. So that is it for this case. It was a really crazy case. If you guys liked this video, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you can see every single time I post a new video like this. And leave your comments of what you think happened to Caylee, if you think Caylee's guilty or not. I definitely think Caylee is guilty, and I think that's the general consensus. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know your theories if you have any other ones than what I said. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, like, subscribe, post notifications, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!